Greetings all, this is your crazy homestead scientist back to you with a new experiment that I'll be trying today. Okay, enough of that silliness. God is good all the time. And I will be doing an experiment today, but I just had to have a little fun thanks to Gudrun who sent me that jacket, and I'll probably be using it more for real things, but today I just want to have a little fun with that. And let's move on to what we're going to be doing. So this is a this and that video, in case you haven't figured it out by the title. And I'm going to start off with talking about, actually I'll talk about these. There's this wonderful lady out there that's been buying quite a few of my skirts. I think she has like 15 of them now. She's so addicted to my skirts. And she has started crocheting her own hangers to go with each skirt, which inspired me because I used to crochet over a lot of my hangers just using some old yarn that I didn't care about, just because it makes the hangers, it adds a little bit of paddedness to them and also helps everything stay nicely. It just holds very good. It holds better than the little hook things that they put in there. And so I decided to have a little fun, and since I'd made myself finally a couple of new patchwork skirts, I have one in colors like this that I call Peaceful Meadow, and I'll show a picture of it right here. And then the other one is one of my favorites I've made for so many other ladies. I decided it was finally time to make one for myself, and that was the Country Blues skirt. So that's what this hanger is for, and I'll show a picture of the Country Blues right here. And that's just one example. The Country Blues skirt morphs quite a bit depending on the fabrics I'm able to get and have on hand at the time. But the one thing that stays consistent is the browns and the bandana print that's in there, because that's the bandana print I can get plenty of. And I always try to get some kind of plaid in there and some kind of pretty blue floral. It's just a fun one, and I really like it. So what I was going to say is I'll be doing a video on how to make these if you're interested. Coming down the road, I keep meaning to get to it, but I haven't had time to sit down and do another one of these for a video. But as soon as I can, I'll do a video for those who are interested, and also maybe show you how to make the little flower to go on there. Because the flower you can add to anything. You can add it to your hats, your scarves, whatever it is that you're making. Leg warmers, I used to make leg warmers a lot when I was teaching ballet and sell them to my students and put little flowers on the top. It was a lot of fun. And then for my water key for today, I've got lemon and lime and rhubarb all in the same one. I've got 2 batches going. But this is the last of the water kefir I'm going to be making for a little while. I've decided it would be a good idea for now to just give my water kefir grains a break. I'm storing them in the fridge, and I'll be checking on them periodically to make sure that they're staying fed and, you know, staying bubbly by adding a little bit of sugar in there every so often. Now, some questions I get a lot about water kefir or anything that's fermented is a lot of people get so concerned about the sugar content. Well, they want to know if you can use things like stevia for fermenting. Well, you can add stevia, but you're still going to need to add some sort of sugar. Honey is another good one if you're looking for a really good all-natural sugar source. But a lot of your ferments are going to need sugar to ferment. They feed, like your bacteria and your yeast, they feed on that sugar, especially the yeast. And what they do is they digest it and they turn it into something more healthy. So it's going to extremely reduce the sugar content, and the longer you let it sit and ferment, the more of the sugar content gets reduced. But you also have to keep in mind that it's also being turned into alcohol. So if you don't want the alcohol level to get too high, you're going to need to drink it somewhere in that point where it's still sweet, but also healthy and bubbly and good for you. But one of the things I'm going to be doing is start to do my other form of natural soda that I've been doing for a long time. It really just depends on all I have going on, which method I want to use. But since I'm giving my kefir grains a break, now's the time for me to switch back to my fermentation starter, making my natural soda. Now, for those who are not interested in buying water kefir grains or trying to bother about keeping them alive, because there is a little more of a trick in keeping the kefir grains healthy and alive than there is in keeping a fermentation starter. This fermentation starter, I started at least a year ago. in that video, the last video I did on how to make a fermentation starter. I will go ahead and link to it right up here. But this is the same one I started in that video. The only thing I've done different is recently I switched out the blueberries. And this is the one that I'm going to be using today to make my natural soda. I have like 3 of them in the fridge right now, and I just rotate between them. The trick is just using it periodically, and if you can't use it for a long period of time, then check it at least once a week or so. Drop a little teaspoon of sugar in there to keep the bacteria and the yeast in there alive and kicking. They got to have that sugar to feed on, because eventually they're going to take it all out of the fruit and they're still going to need some sugar added to it. And that's all you need to do. And as you can see, this is very bubbly. Okay, so right here are the blueberries that Mr. Rain has picked so far off of our 6 blueberry shrubs, all in containers. I have a video on that showing how I grow them with tips on how I keep them in the containers and keep them healthy. I'll link to that video right up here. He's still out there picking berries. So this is the most we've got off of our blueberry bushes in one day ever, and in the years that we've had them, which I can't remember how many years. I think we got them in 2013 if I remember correctly. And then this year we just got some 2 little currant bushes, and they already had some unripe berries on them when we got them, and so they're starting to ripen up. We won't get a lot of berries off of them, but I thought it would be fun to add some currants to the blueberry currant natural soda that I'm going to be making today. So anyway, what I'll be doing is I'm going to be shooting a video today. I'm only going to be using 1 pint of the blueberries, and then whatever currants I've got here. Maybe I might go out and pick a few more if they're ripe by the time I'm ready to make that video. And I'll be using my blueberry fermentation starter to do that. So be watching for that video to come out soon. So right here what's going on is I got some cashews and some pecans soaking for making my cashew pecan milk, which is my very favorite non-dairy milk. And then I take the pulp and turn it into a cheese. And I do have a video on how I do this. I'll go ahead and link to it right up here. And within that video, you also find a video on how to do the vegan cheese. And look, Mr. Rain just brought in another. That's 5 pints of blueberries in one day. Okay, and then right here I have some leftover gravy from this morning when I made biscuits and gravy. And so what I'm going to be doing is taking this, adding to it to increase it, and using it as my base to make my chicken and biscuit pot pie. And I do have a video on how I make that, and I'll link to it right up here. Okay, can't have this and that without talking a little bit about vinegar. So I want you to see right there what's going on. This vinegar is actually ready. I can tell because it's all done. It's not bubbling anymore, and it's very tart. But I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for a while and let that mother continue to develop until I have a pretty good mat on there. But that's what that is. That is a vinegar SCOBY developing on the top. Okay, very similar to your kombucha SCOBY, which kombucha is basically a type of vinegar. Usually most people will drink it while it's still fizzy and not let it get to its tart vinegar stage. But you use the SCOBY from that to get it going, and you can do the same thing with your vinegar. I haven't done that yet. I'm still allowing my actual kombucha SCOBY to develop from the tea I made from my own plant. Right here is a jar of some fresh peppermint that I picked from the garden, and I'm going to be starting, this is the experiment today, I'm going to be starting a batch of peppermint extract. Now, where it becomes the experiment is that I'm going to be using some different ingredients, and I used in the video that I did right up here on how to make extracts, and I'm going to show you today how I'm doing this. In that video, I used a combination of the food grade glycerin. This is the glycerin I use, and I will link to it below. What you want to look for when you're using glycerin is look for vegetable, non-GMO, kosher, and food grade, okay? And that's all of these. And that's what I'm using in my extract. And then you can use only the glycerin with water to make a totally alcohol-free extract. If that's important to you, you can do it. Just make sure that you understand that it's not going to have as long of a shelf life, but it's still decently long at about 4 months, 4 to 5 months, and I would guess probably longer than that. But how you want to do that is you want to go, I believe it's 3 parts glycerin to 1 part water. And what I'm going to do, in that video I did 50% glycerin and 50% alcohol because I've been working on trying to cut back on the amount of alcohol for a couple of reasons. And one is just to veer away from alcohol use, but also because to buy like a 80 proof and alcohol and above, it gets pretty expensive anyway. But if you're wanting to make tinctures, you really got to have that for a tincture, for a good strong tincture. But I'm trying to also go as frugal as possible. And so to make it even more frugal, but also to make sure I get a good strong extract, I'm going to be going half of the food grade glycerin and then half of my own homemade grape wine from our own grapes. Now it's obviously it's not 80 proof, so it's not going to be very strong, but at least I'm not going to have a really strong alcohol base extract, and I want to see how it works. So that's why I say that's where the experiment comes in. I'm just going to fill the jar halfway full of the glycerin. And the thing about glycerin, if you haven't worked with it yet, is it's very thick, and that's why you have to add something to it to water it down, because I tried doing a vanilla extract with just the glycerin and it was just too thick. It didn't extract well enough. It needs to be made thinner. So I'm going to thin it out with my homemade wine here, filling it up the rest of the way. Oh, that's probably more than half. Let me add some more glycerin to that. And then what I'm going to do is let this sit in a cupboard, in a dark cupboard, for 2 months. I'm going to put a Tatler lid on there today. Put the lid on tight. And then just shake it really good. And this is what you're going to want to do with any of your extracts, is make sure you shake them periodically. Now me, I'll remember for a little while, and then pretty soon I'll just forget about it. Okay, so you just want to make sure that that glycerin and that wine or that vodka or that rum, whatever you choose to use, or water, is mixed very well, so it's plenty thin. I think I'll go ahead and add a little bit more liquid to this. So we'll go a little bit more glycerin and a little bit more of the grape wine. Okay, so I'm going to be putting this away in my pantry and letting it sit for at least 2 months, and then I'll try to check it within a month or so, and then do an update so you can tell you how it's coming along. All right, and I knew there was one more thing, and that was pineapple weed. Here's the pineapple weed that I dehydrated the other day in that video I was talking about, the pineapple weed, so here it is. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll go ahead and link to it up here, unless I've already filled up my 5 iCards, then I'll go ahead and put it in the end screens at the end of this video. So I'll be using this for tea down the road, and I am going to be developing a special tea recipe just for menopausal women, and it'll just be my own recipe. I'm going to be making it up and then giving it a try and seeing how it works. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that video for today and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.